If you look at Asia Pacific, for example, there are so-called 100-year flooding events every year. So we've had 100-year events in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in Thailand. This was last year. This year we already have Philippines, possibly North Korea developing into a major flooding event as well. And the same story in Latin America. Flooding in Nicaragua, flooding in Brazil, flooding in Colombia. Last year alone, there were 1.2 million inhabitants in Colombia who became eco-refugees. The theme of flooding is here and now. And if you look ahead, we look at the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the folks who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007 for opening up the topic. Their current estimate is that things are way, way worse than they had anticipated at the time. So there are plenty of reasons to think that there's going to be more flooding ahead. And that sort of leads me to a hopefully somewhat provocative set of cartoons where I would now describe the world which used to be thought of in terms of two boxes, the deniers and those who want to do something about it, into what I would propose to be really three categories now. On the left, we still have the deniers. That's the group one that says that climate change is unproven. And this tends to be more of a US-centric population. The second box, climate mitigation, is where most of us are, and most of the people I talk to at this conference are, which is we need to do some things to delay future havoc. That can be slowing down through personal activities like recycling, local, municipal, national, regional, global, all of it aimed at avoiding climate change disasters through reduction of carbon. Wind energy, solar energy, etc., etc. The problem, of course, is that open the window and see what's going on, and what's going on is we have climate disasters now. So I think there's a third group, which is climate adaptation, which is evolving. And these are folks like myself who are now saying, well, there is no denying that mitigation activities are a good thing. Wind energy is a good thing, solar is a good thing, but nonetheless, the crisis is here, and we need to start adapting to that reality. So this group now says that extreme weather is here, is now. It's not a future risk, 20 years out, 50 years out. It's now. 1.2 million people in Colombia will tell you the problem with climate change and flooding is now. And therefore we need to adapt and develop a mindset around resilience. So with this in mind, I'd like to suggest that climate mitigation is a space that opened up a whole new era of investment, which we now refer to as clean tech, multi-billion-dollar space, sun, solar energy, wind energy, and so on. But that now there's a need to think in terms of climate adaptation and a redistribution of capital toward this space. In order to talk about this, we are going to roll through a number of solutions. I'll talk in a second about what CO2 Bambu is doing with regard to flood resilience. And I'll introduce a few other solutions, such as rain catchment systems. We'll introduce last minute a solution that Patricia will talk to you about. Ben will talk about mobile infrastructure for post-disaster potable water. Water is obviously a big theme, but we'll talk about how to make this happen in a disaster resilience environment. And Agora Partnership will close the day. We were supposed to have the US DoD Pacific Command representative. The US DoD is embarking into a very serious resilience-oriented project in Asia Pacific. Unfortunately, national security trumped this presentation, and she could not be here at the last minute. But it is worth noting that some very big actors in the US government are tackling resilience in a big way. With that said, let me switch hat and talk about one of the solutions, which is amphibious housing. The problem that CO2 Bambu addresses are these: housing deficit, natural disasters, and so on. What do? We do low-cost housing, which is environmentally responsible, and this came out of the category two, the second ostrich, which is we want to do things to try to delay future crises. And so we use a renewable resource, bamboo, in Nicaragua and address low-cost housing. The logic is very much based on the mitigation mindset, doing plantations and creating demand to drive other people to do more bamboo plantations. Somewhere along the way, it turns out that our customers have been post-disaster reconstruction customers. In 2001, 2011, this was a post-Hurricane Felix reconstruction project funded by a Spanish NGO in Nicaragua. And this year we're working on a World Bank project. Both of these are in a post-disaster reconstruction mode. And having flirted with that world now for a couple of years, I've come around to the observation that there's something fundamentally broken. We cannot wait until hurricanes and natural disasters occur and then scurry for a few years to try to line up funding. The best alternative, of course, would be if we could avoid disaster destruction when there is an inevitable flooding event. And so the solution we are bringing to the table is this, which is amphibious housing. What you see on the left is a house which, instead of being based on cement foundation, is based on a set of barrels. The barrels allow the house to float up when the water rises, inevitably in a flooding event, and the house returns back through the guiding post that you see on the side of the house, allowing the population to not have the annual catastrophe and the annual disruption from flooding. So that's what we bring to the table. By the way, amphibious housing is not science fiction. It exists in Europe. You can, for €385,000 €385,000 buy this amphibious house in Europe. The trick, of course, is that nobody can afford that in most of the developing world. The trick is developing a $15,000 to $20,000 amphibious house, which is what we're working on. With that said, what I'd like to do is take you for a quick trip, the first of our 2 videos, if I can figure out how to find it, and take you for a 3-minute trip to Malacatoya, which is a community in Nicaragua which gets flooded every year.
Lluvioso deja sin carretera las comunidades de Malacatoya y el Tepalón en Granada, donde la Defensa Civil evacuó a más de 250 familias.
In floods and mudslides caused by torrential rain in Central America, considers it one of the parts of the world most affected by climate change.
Lo que tratamos de entender hoy es cuál es la situación de Malacatoya.
Cuando el río llena, no hay pase de Malacatoya para acá. No solamente en bote, lancha. Hay gente que vive demasiado a la orilla del río, el río con una nada él llena y ahí son los afectados.
Se tenía que mover una población de unos 900 personas que fue evacuada y trasladada aquí a Granada. Nosotros, al fin de cuentas, nos quedamos con unos 150 familias y iniciamos el proceso.
Quedé calor, prendido por las llamas de tu corazón.
Dejan esa casa y se vuelven a ir al mismo lugar donde ellos viven. 92% se regresaron.
Donde vivo, aquí nací y me hacía mucha falta mi lugar. Me gusta criar mis animales, chancho, gallina, y allá no se puede criar nada de eso.
Aquí hay más vida.
Nosotros sabemos que hay un riesgo porque cada año es esas inundaciones y se llena demasiado aquí. Pero lo que pasa es que aquí no les gusta salir a las personas, digo, no salir porque como hay más trabajo.
Como dice ella, no es el mismo tipo de vida que aquí, porque aquí uno busca de todo para sobrevivir, aunque no tenga trabajo. Ya busca el primer tiempo de comida, pero en otro lugar no se llega lo mismo.
Tráeme agua para beber, tráeme pan para comer, tráeme agua que tengo sed.
Necesitamos realmente repensar cómo hacemos viviendas y estamos pensando que una vivienda anfibia, es decir, una casa que puede subir con el agua y regresar al suelo, es tal vez para una municipalidad como Malacatoya.
Es una estructura sobre un sistema de flotación que está anclado al piso con unos postes y los postes entonces funcionan como si fueran una ancla y gracias a las anclas pues se queda en el mismo lugar inicial.
De casas anfibias creo que sería la solución
mejor para ellos.
Que si nos van a ayudar, que nos ayuden aquí.
Short trip to Malacatoya with us. I think what the message is from the woman, the inhabitant in Malacatoya, who was last talking, is that the current paradigm doesn't work. The paradigm today is wait for a disaster, try to organize funding, relocate the communities to another less dangerous space, and hope they stay there, which of course is not supported by empirical data that shows most of the time populations return to their homeland. So here we have a problem. The civil defense authorities want to move people out, but populations come back. So part of the trick in terms of resilience is to find a way for populations to stay there. So this is a first example of what a resilience type mindset looks like. I'd like to quickly touch on another case. The folks from Enterprise Works could not be here today, but I wanted to surface their solution, which is Bob. Bob, as you can see on the right, comes in the size of a jerry can, a 20-liter yellow can. However, once blown up and filled with water, it holds 1,400 liters. This is a solution which is developed and manufactured in China and goes through the whole typical supply chain and finds its way into the community. In a disaster resilience mindset, being able to deploy very, very large containers of potable water is a key determinant of the community's ability to survive, or at least to hold off until additional support comes in. So this is another example, and our purpose in today's panel is just to start to open up a mindset that there is such a thing as resiliency solutions, and to invite both entrepreneurs and investors to think about that. The third example comes from Day One Response, and I would like to invite you to jump in. I can click if you'd like to talk from where you are.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Patricia Compass-Markman, and I'm founder of Day One Response. And thank you, Ben, for having me join today. And I really am excited about this discussion because I've been working on water treatment for disaster relief for the past 2 years under Day One Response, but for the past 4 years. And I want to give you a couple examples of how the DoD, as well as the Clinton Global Initiative, are getting involved with this as well. But Day One Response is focused on water treatment for disaster relief. As Ben was saying, there's a lot of disasters, particularly flood events, in which access to clean drinking water is the #1 challenge and also #1 need for communities to survive. So we've developed the Day One water bag that allows communities to collect water, treat it, transport, and store all in one unit. It's an individual or household unit, and you can see the photos here of dirty water on the left. And actually you go through a process, it's a chemical and filtration process that allows you to actually treat the water to drinking water standards. And a key piece is it's really visual. And you know, anybody from whether you're here in the US to India, Africa, can use this system and actually gain confidence that the water's being treated. And we've been in the field working in Nicaragua, Thailand, Haiti, Pakistan, and Philippines, and actually just about to go to Africa to do some more testing on this. And this is where I want to point out the DoD work as well as Clinton Global Initiative. The photo up on the top left, I did some work with the US Navy and Thai Marines, and they are really focusing on some of their missions. It's called HADER. The HA is humanitarian assistance, the DR is disaster relief. Oftentimes military is the #1 first responder to disasters, and they're looking at these water purification, energy efficient solutions, anything, not just water, but anything that they can deploy into communities. Also, lastly, Clinton Global Initiative, we just launched a partnership with them and a relief organization. CGI has many commitments that they organize, and they just started one which is under disaster resilience. And I think that's really exciting to see a leader in this network getting on that. To kind of complement what Ben was saying is it's here and now, and we need to do something about it. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs and investors to get involved.
Thank you.